So the MSM may not have touched the story, but trust me, everyone in Westminster, and I mean everyone, every major political broadcaster, political journalist, editor, politician, special advisor, civil service, they are all talking about Keir Starmer's big secret. So this week I have broken cover, as you know, as an independent journalist to reveal the stories that remain unanswered about the potential shape of Keir Starmer's family, suggestions that he and his wife were living separate lives before the election campaign, and how all attempts to report the story have been aborted. But after my revelations, which have become clearly in the public interest following Lord Ali's tens of thousands of donations to Starmer's wife for clothing and posh accommodation for his sons to study his GCSEs, Lord Ashcroft broke cover. So the Conservative peer and top author has spent months trying to reveal what he knows, and he wrote directly to the Prime Minister on X saying, "As you know, I'm updating your biography Red Knight to be released next spring. It will address Labour's manifesto and promises after 6 months in office. I am struggling to keep up with all the revelations. I would ask you to pause for a few weeks to let me catch up. Thank you." And following that tweet, breaking right now, the Daily Mail's associate editor, a long-time Westminster insider, has now confirmed this is triggering alarm bells in number 10. And those headaches are only growing for the Prime Minister's staff with the bombshell announcement in the last few hours that, wait for it, Lord Ali, now under investigation for alleged non-registration of interest leading to potential breaches of the Code of Conduct for members of the House of Lords. And Starmer has now decided to pay back £6,000 worth of those gifts. So given the context of what's going on here, actually this story couldn't be more serious. But what disgusts me, of course, is that the Boris witch hunters are all silent over this stuff. No special investigations from woke ITV's Paul Brand, no hysterical X-posts from Carol Vorderman, no lengthy monologues about cronyism and cover-ups from James O'Brien of the Labour Broadcasting Company, formerly known as LBC. Nothing, nada, complete silence. So it is worth giving credit to those brave souls alongside me who don't want to hide something everyone in the Westminster swamp is talking about from their listeners and their readers. Guido Fawkes has led the way on this, and its editor Paul Staines believes that there is more to come.
During the election campaign, you were hinting a bit about, Guido was hinting a bit about Keir Starmer's personal life, but
we never got the story to fly.
Well, no, more that no one else. But no one else was talking about this apart from Guido. Is that because journalists and editors want to stay on the side of the incoming government? Like
there was a bit of that, and there was a bit of those type of stories you can never prove.
Yeah,
libel. You've got a photographer outside at night time and in the morning, shall we say? So it's very hard.
Like I got him.
Very hard to stand up.
Yeah.
And just because everyone knows or everyone says doesn't mean
it's tough.
So we tried it from all different angles, and people enjoy, as Lord Leveson said to me, a mosaic of information.
Yeah.
Could put it together. And I think basically a lot of people knew what the Mail and the Telegraph were getting at when they were saying, "Where's Vicky?"
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. But
where's the ring?
Truth is, where's the ring?
He's still not got it back on.
Maybe he's just putting a bit of weight. It happens.
Maybe he's following Prince William, who also doesn't wear a ring.
Is that true?
I don't wear a ring.
Apparently, it's the traditional thing to do.
Well, I don't wear a watch, so I don't like.
Either.
I think that story isn't over yet.
That story isn't over yet. Well, clearly Lord Ashcroft agrees, Andrew Pearce agrees, and a lot of worried folk in number 10 Downing Street agree. Mike Graham on Talk and the intrepid independent journalist Isabel Oakeshott, they've also been asking all the right questions on this.
So I think there is something bigger going on here, and it's annoying because I don't know what it is. And I know that the lobby of political journalists at Westminster feel the same. All of us instinctively feel that there is...
And Jennifer Arcuri, who had her career destroyed for an alleged affair with Boris Johnson, she thinks she knows exactly what's going on.
I believe there's definitely something very sinister going on, which is why I think whoever does have this story will wait till the opportune moment to make sure that they do the most damage, because it's inevitable. It will come out, whatever this is.
Now, I've thought a lot about the story, as you can imagine. I am under all sorts of legal threats. Trust me, they want to shut me up. And I'm clear that who a politician was sleeping with and whether the Prime Minister has a love child should actually be of no interest. But what I cannot accept is a complete two-tier system. And as is always the case, I've been listening very closely to you, the Outspoken family, because if you thought I was on the wrong track here, I would take that very seriously. But actually, it's quite the opposite. 37,000 of you have now voted in my major YouTube poll, and 85% say the public does have a right to know about Keir Starmer's private life. Osbolly wrote to me saying it is most certainly within the public interest that we do know. The problem for him is he's been lying and covering things up, which goes against British values. His time is up. Jeff Nod wrote, the Labour left-wing supporting media have always hammered the Conservatives' private lives, so what's good for them is good for Labour. Elia Tone wrote to me to say, since his private life seems to be in sharp contrast to what the Labour Party is supposed to represent, then yes, his private life should be scrutinised in every way that he has chosen to scrutinise ordinary individuals in this country. You cannot have one rule for a select few and another rule for the rest of society, and shouldn't he be leading by example anyway? From Lindsay Mary Davies. It depends what the information actually is. If it reveals something that is strongly negative about his personality, or it affects his policy making, or he's a danger to anyone, or he's done something illegal, then we as victims of his governance has a right to know. And from Ian Hawkes, media bias for all to see. They can never be trusted again to be impartial. It's a dangerous situation for someone to be in. Power with secrets could be open to future blackmail. And I guess for me, that really is the question for the mainstream media. How can you look at your dwindling number of viewers and listeners? How can you look at them in the eye when your coverage of Boris Johnson's private life was quite clearly intrusive, salacious, and designed to destroy his career, but then say Starmer is some sort of protected species? It stinks. And I am here to point out the fact you are all hypocritical client journalists who hide the truth from the people you should be working for. But first, it's the best time of year. Football is back. We're talking Premier League in the UK and in the US, NFL Sundays and college football Saturdays. With that, the glorious kind of fantasy football lineups is back too. So it's where your inner manager comes alive, setting the perfect fantasy roster, screaming at your TV and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone ridicules in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench, because let's be honest, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. So that's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down below with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of those rogue ear and nose hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0, this is the lineup that'll keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. It will help you feel clean, confident, and ready to dominate your fantasy league. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Groin and Body Hair Trimmer is the franchise player of your grooming roster with precise trimming capabilities. It's reliable, efficient, and gets the job done without fumbling. Whether it's for a date night, weekend tailgate, or just everyday grooming, this is the tool you want on your squad. And no one wants a surprise nose or ear hair making a guest appearance on game day, right? So look at this. The Weed Whacker 2.0 handles those details like a pro, keeping you neat and ready to go. No missed tackles in your grooming game. And 2 free gifts today. The Boxers 2.0 Midnight Bravo and the Shed 2.0 Toiletry Bag Premium Gear to ensure you're always ready for action, whether at home or on the road. So join the over 10 million men. I'm one of them who trust Manscaped, and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. All you need to do is use the code OUTSPOKEN, that's at checkout, and you'll get 20% off and free shipping. Trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season. So 20% off and free shipping when you use the code Outspoken at www.manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way. And I'm delighted now to welcome Father Calvin Robinson. Father, goodness me, what do you make of this growing scandal over a mainstream media cover-up relating to Keir Starmer's private life?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we touched on it accidentally in our last episode. I was talking about Keir kissing his wife and how awkward it looked and how it didn't look like a loving couple embracing each other. And I think maybe you misheard me and thought I was talking about someone else. And you said, of course, you're talking about him kissing his wife, not someone else. Keir would not be kissing someone else. I was like, ooh, where did that come from? But obviously, you were privy to information I was not privy to, Dan.
Yeah, no, indeed, Calvin. Goodness gracious me. Yeah, I think I saw Julie Burchill in The Spectator this week, right, that she thought when Keir Starmer kissed his wife, it was about as sincere as Philip Schofield. And I thought, yes, that's a very good comparison. But look, Calvin, you're a man of the cloth. You're a very moral man. We know this, socially conservative. Does it matter what Keir Starmer is getting up to in his private life?
It does and it doesn't. So it does matter in that we should expect our leaders to live to a higher standard. We should expect them to be noble and loyal and honorable. And if they do something foul of that, they should resign. This used to be the case. Any politician or even king that was an adulterer would have had to resign in disgrace, actually. So if it turns out that Keir Starmer is an adulterer, I don't think in this modern age anything will come of it. I don't think anyone will care. I don't think he will have to resign. I don't think he'll even apologize publicly at this stage after all of the adultery we've seen from people like Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson over the years. It's just kind of part and parcel of public life now, unfortunately. But I don't think it should be. I think we should hold people to higher expectations. We should say, look, if you're going to lead our country, we want you to lead it in a moral way, in a good way. And if you can't be moral in your home life, how on earth are you going to be moral in your public life? How are you going to be helping our country become a good place when you can't even keep your home as a good place?
And the other thing is, Calvin, is what does this mean about the mainstream media too? Because isn't it really important that they're not worried about covering up for a politician?
Oh, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because if he is doing something wrong, the mainstream media should expose it. But of course, they've wanted him in power for so long now. Are they willing to hold that power to account, or are they complicit in? Are they essentially left-wing activists rather than journalists? We've been saying they are for a long time, but we're about to see actually how many of these journalists are actually journalists, how many of them are professional, how many of them want to investigate and report versus how many of them just want to propagandize and cover things up. And it's the same over here actually. I'm seeing interesting the way that certain stories are not necessarily lied about, but they just won't address them in the first place. And so people won't, on certain channels and in certain newspapers, people won't hear the truth. It won't even be covered up. It will just be silenced.
Yeah, no, I know. And Calvin, what you also have to think about as well is, will a politician who is under pressure about the mainstream media not revealing a secret potentially do things to appeal to a particular newspaper or a particular broadcaster in order to keep those things secret? That shouldn't be how it works. I also, by the way, just absolutely hate the fact that everyone in the Westminster swamp is talking about this story, but they don't think the public has a right to know.
Not just the mainstream media holding him over a barrel that I'm worried about, it's other politicians. So if other politicians are twisting his arm to get their own way so that they don't expose him, what is he willing to do and compromise on? That's an important question. He is the prime minister of our country, for goodness sake. He has a lot of power, a lot of influence. He shouldn't be scurrying around trying to cover up his secret torrid affairs. He should be out there fighting for the people that he's supposed to represent. But at this stage, who is he supposed to represent? Probably Lord Ali more than you and I.
Well, indeed, because of course we have the revelations today, Father Calvin, that Starmer will be paying back £6,000 worth of gifts, which is quite an extraordinary thing. It means there's some sort of acknowledgement that he did something wrong, or at least he didn't feel comfortable in terms of taking the gifts. And Lord Ali himself is now being investigated by the House of Lords committee over breaking potentially the code of conduct. So this stinks, but it stinks to me just as much, by the way, that the mainstream media are not covering this. Because if this was a Conservative Party Prime Minister, just trust me, it would be leading every single news bulletin.
Oh, I tire of the hypocrisy of it all. It's so frustrating. The moment the Tories do anything slightly like this, it's corruption, scandal. The Labour Party do it exactly the same way. It's like, do what? Who gave money to who? Who gave gift to who? I don't know what you're talking about. It's disgusting to see the hypocrisy, both from the politicians and the mainstream media. But I don't buy into what's happening at the moment. This returning of £6,000, £6,000 out of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands this received so far, is nothing. It's to make it look like he's doing something. And the same for the House of Lords Commission, this investigation that they've launched. I mean, the Lords launching an investigation into a Lord, I don't buy it. Nothing will come of it. It's just to say, look, we're looking into this. Something's happening. Honest. They're not very honest, though, are they?
No, indeed. I mean, we know the mainstream media in this country has been completely corrupt. What about the Conservative Party leadership contest, Calvin? Robert Jenrick, Nigel Farage going at each other today. Jenrick saying he wants to be able to retire Farage. Farage saying, absolutely not, Jenrick, you're a big-time fake.
This party conference season with humour, because it's also weak and feeble. It's also rubbish. Robert Jenrick says a few nice red meat things every now and then. He's generally conservative, but he's not hardcore. He's certainly not. He doesn't have the capacity to retire Farage, for goodness sake. And Farage hitting back at him as if it's anything. I mean, it's like when a fly is buzzing around your head. You don't constantly sit there hitting at it. It just makes you look silly. And that's what Farage is doing at the moment, unfortunately. He just needs to stay strong, get his party into becoming an actual party, give the members an actual voice, don't hand all the power to the board and don't keep the power to himself. We've discussed all this, what he needs to do. He needs to make sure that he gets people out there in all the constituencies so people have someone to vote for. He's got a lot on his plate to worry about what the Conservative Party is saying at Conservative Party conference. They are irrelevant. The country have shown everyone the Conservative Party is now irrelevant. They have got so much work to be doing. Farage should be acting as if he is the opposition. He should be stronger than this. He's got to stop playing their silly little games.
What have you made of Kemi Badenoch this week, Calvin?
Oh.
There has been a big push against her.
I think she's been incredibly strong. I like Kemi personally. I don't support her as the leader of the Conservative Party, but I like her as a friend, and I think she's been saying some really, really solid stuff, which has generally impressed me. But she's still skirting around these issues. You know, she was saying not all cultures are valid. I don't know if I'd say the word valid. I'd say not all cultures are equal. You know, some cultures are inferior. But she's pushing on the right path. And then we see people like Laura Kuenssberg try to corner her in a gotcha moment, as the BBC does. You know, that's horrible tabloid journalism where she's trying to really nail Kemi down on just say the Muslims is what she was essentially saying. But Kemi should have just turned around and said, yeah, Islam is incompatible with British values, Christian values. It does not fit in with our way of life. But she won't go that extra step. Well done to her for not being baited, but of course she needs to own it and just be forthright with it. But she's been strong. Of the ones that I've seen so far, she's come out strongest this week.
Okay, because she said other cultures. Exactly. Other cultures. What cultures is she referring to, Calvin? Because, you know, she's not referring to Hindus, is she?
No. And this is something we need to be open and honest about. Hindus and Sikhs have integrated very well into Britain. You know, some of the first migrants were Indian, and then some of the others were West Indian, and that generally speaking, in the 50s and 60s, they integrated very well. But there's been a massive immigration from Islamic countries over the last few years, and they haven't integrated. We've seen areas of London and other major cities that are no-go zones, as Trump called them back in the day and got chastised for. But it turned out to be true that it's a society and a culture that does not integrate with or assimilate with the host. And so when something doesn't assimilate with the host, it tries to take over, and it does that in a hostile way. Islam is not compatible with British values. It shouldn't be a crime to say that. It should be a conversation that people are willing to have. Because if we want Britain to be a great nation, then we want it to be coherent, and we want it to be cohesive. We want everyone living together in harmony, no matter what their religion or their race. And people will be kind of thrown back by that. But England can be multi-ethnic. What it can't be is multicultural.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and I've put some of the links in the show notes below this video. Keep watching our Outspoken clips to support this independent news venture with no spin, no bias, and no censorship, unlike the MSM. Most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.